Good morning, friends. Hello. How are you this morning? Pray you are doing well and hope that there is goodness in your day. It is proper winter out there today. Whew. We've been uh, we've been sorting coats with our coat drive this morning, and been doing little coat deliveries here and there. I just heard them headed out to make somebody's day with a new coat. What a joy it is to be a part of that with our partners and students at RPA that are coming over and helping sort with our the real movers and shakers at United Way Fall River, that Greater Fall River, that are doing great things, and the joy of kind of always getting to work with Patty and Janine, which is a hoot and a half. So it's a Wednesday's a good day. Hey, good morning, Donna. Hope you're doing great. Hope you're staying warm. Morning, Jamie. Hello, hello. It's a beautiful Wednesday. Hump day, everybody. Everybody's doing all right. Let's see, a couple more people coming along here. We'll get going. Hope you're doing great. Headed to the police academy. Good for him. Hey, Sharon. Good morning. Hey, Jane. Yes, it is chilly. It is a chilly one for sure. It is proper winter. Good morning, everybody. All right. Little better dip, my little better days mug here. A little sailing mug. Not that it's a bad day. All right, let's get going, friends. Glad you're all here. It is the 15th day of January at this 11:11, and I'm glad you're here and I'm glad you're part of this journey. This is from Paul's letter to the church in Corinth. Therefore, my dear brothers, be steadfast, immovable, always excelling in the Lord's work, knowing that your labor in the Lord is not in vain. Oh, that Paul, he can be pushy sometimes. Because it's the 15th of January today. So this is one of those times when if you made resolutions, you're either starting to feel like there's a transformation happening in the resolution that you made, or you are kind of not wanting to talk about it and maybe heaping shame upon your head. So I know many of you probably didn't make resolutions, and some people do, some people don't. But 2 weeks out is when we start to talk about like change and changing things in us, we begin to see changes. You go to the gym for 2 weeks, things begin to start to move a little bit. You quit smoking for 2 weeks, you begin your lungs actually start to get a little worse before they get better, but things start to change. You begin to see just a nascent little beginning of changes as a result of the transformations that people make from resolutions. Or you have an opportunity to heap shame upon yourself and feel bad because you once again have failed to do whatever it is, or that gym membership is just a little dusty, or that pack of smoke somehow found its way back into the car, or if you're doing dry January, somehow along the way you managed to have a cocktail, or that we're so either you're doing great, or you're kind of encountering this notion of your own kind of inability to kind of pull it off yet again this year. So hey everybody, look, Faye, good morning. Allison, hello. Karen, hello everybody. So what are we to do about this 2 week spot after resolutions, and that this notion? So if you're doing great, keep doing great. That's awesome. I'm not here to tell you not to, but I want to offer you a tool this morning that if you find yourself 2 weeks out from resolutions and you find that you just can't seem to get any purchase on anything, that I want to look at and return to this for a moment. Because the first thing you have to remember and notice, I think, is that Did you ever notice that nobody ever resolves to put on 15 pounds in the next year? Nobody ever resolves to drink more booze over the course of the year, or be more hot-headed, or be less charitable, or more reactionary. That our resolutions always are about freeing us and all from something, and they're always about and they always revolve around our hope for goodness in life. And this is really the true work, is our hope for goodness, not just in our lives and so that we get all the nuggets, but our hope for goodness in our lives and our hope for goodness in the world. And so that simply, and that is the real work. When I was traveling in Spain, I had the chance to go to Pamplona. Pamplona is famous for a lot of different reasons, the running of the bulls, all that sort of stuff. But it was also the place that Ignatius became Ignatius of as we know him, that Ignatius of Loyola, and the whole idea of what we come to call Ignatian spirituality was really born, and it was born on the battlefield. In 1521, the Battle of Pamplona was raging. The French invaded Spain. The Pamplona, the city of Pamplona, fell almost immediately. The only thing left was the citadel and this little group of holdouts that were trying to defend the citadel, among which was the soldier Ignatius. Ignatius, he's kind of on the ramparts, trying to figure out what they're going to do to try and maintain the citadel, and a ricocheting cannonball comes and strikes right between his legs. It crushes one leg and severely cuts and breaks the other. And he is crippled for what will turn out to be months and months and months. Here he is, a soldier, a man of action, a guy who's used to getting things done. In fact, he's one of the everybody else wants to surrender, and he's the only one that doesn't want to surrender. And in fact, when he's wounded, they're like, oh, thank God we can surrender, and they do. And the French come along, and they're an honorable lot at this point, and they begin to patch him up, and they stick him in this room, and but he has nothing he can do. The pain is excruciating. All he can do is lay there, both his legs horribly broken. And he has this vision. He has a vision of Mary and child, the vision of what we call in the church the Theotokos. It is the particular image. And he has this, he has this no other option as this incredible warrior and man of action other than to surrender his will. And surrender his will not only to Mary and child, but to the child Jesus. Like there's a particular thing in this. He can't even surrender to to Jesus on the throne of heaven. He is brought to this place where he gets to surrender to a child, and he surrenders up, and from this experience, he begins to have this moment of what gets translated as kind of a do-over. Of a fresh start. And in fact, the people that come to visit Ignatius don't find a different guy than the guy that was on the battlefield, or the hothead and the warrior. That he begins and he begins as he lays there to talk with people as they come in to visit him, and he begins to encourage them in their spirituality. And this way, an Ignatian spirituality that begins to be formed on this bed of a wounded soldier begins to look like not warriorhood, not be steadfast and immovable, as Paul says in his letter to the Corinthians, but it looks much more like surrender. There's a prayer that becomes famous in Ignatian spirituality, and it is called the receiving prayer. And the Ignatian spirituality is big on praying a lot of different times a day, like in the morning and the night. There are different prayers for all these things. It's a very ordered thing. He was a soldier. What do you want? There's got to be some discipline around here. But this prayer, I want to offer. I want you to consider. He writes, it's this: take, Lord, and receive my liberty, my memory, my understanding, and my entire will, all I have and call my own. You have given all to me. To you, Lord, I return it. Everything is yours. Do with it what you will. Give me only your love and your grace. That is enough for me. Amen. So what happens if you start every day with this prayer? Or maybe start it just when you find yourselves in the stumbling of resolutions. You see, the problem with the resolutions, and I think what hangs us up with when we end up with resolutions is that it is this exercise of our will in the world, right? It's we're gonna quit the bad thing, we're gonna do the right thing, we're gonna make a transformation that requires us to exercise our will on the world. The problem with that is we're always finite. You and me, we got so much will. In fact, there's a lot written about it. We got so much muscle. We got so much intellectual, and it's better early in the day. It's worse later in the day, but we only got so much. But the one who made us, and the one who called us into being, and calls us into new life, has all the will and all of the way, because it is his way that is being laid out. And so what happens if you maybe you're struggling with a resolution, or maybe you didn't make any, but what happens if every day we start with this prayer? Every day we start with this notion of, or maybe when we just find ourselves needing it, we offer back to God that it's everything. We put it back in receivership. We give it back to God. And in giving it back to God, well then, when we're done with the prayer, okay, it's 6:35 in the morning, and we have to get out of bed, and we still have to contend with the world, right? We still have the world to contend with. We still have all the same things to contend with. But the difference is we've given it all back. And now the things that we have to take up in the day become manageable. They become manageable not because we've become a better manager of them, but because we've offered up all the stuff that was never ours to begin with in the first place. What is often the problem with the resolutions is that we try to take up what is God's and not take up what is ours. And so there's this. So if we begin our days in this place where we return everything back, in the course of our days, what we'll discover is that, we'll have to take some things up. Of course we will. We're going to have to, if we lay in bed long enough, we're going to have to go to the bathroom. It's just a thing that happens, that we're going to have to kind of move through our day. We're going to have to move with all the things that our day will bring to us. But if we can begin with, and we can return with this notion that that all of it, that we don't have to carry it all. We have to contend with the thing that is before us right here and right today. See, when we think about Paul's words, we think about you got to be tough, you got to be hard, you got to be resolute, you got to be willful in the face of these things that are trying to destroy us. Be strong in the work of God. But that's not the Lord's work. The Lord's work is us being in relationship with God. And that what keeps that relationship open is this understanding ourselves in right relationship with Him, which is all things come from Him, and He grants them to us as gifts because He loves us and wants to be in relationship with us. And so that when we can constantly correct and bring back to the sense of our own right relationship, our own of where God is and where we are, the things we have to carry, the things we have to pick up are not so heavy and not so great and not so unmanageable. They become unmanageable when we try to pick up God's end of the log. And so what Paul is saying when he's saying be immovable, when he's saying be resolute, he's not saying get it all right, do it all right every time. He's not saying being that perfection is necessarily in the cards. What he's saying is always return to the relationship with Christ. Always give it back to Him, for He has offered up everything we need in order to get it done. And that when we do that, we can move into the world with so much power and with so much agency and with so much transformation. We can be a guy who was wounded on a battlefield 500 years ago, and we can still be they'll still be talking about you 500 years later because of the brilliance of the spirituality in which you brought into the world. Oh, by the way, that was Ignatius I'm referencing, the guy we talked about on the battlefield at Pamplona. That you'll bring such power to the world because of the fact you've cleared the decks of all the stuff that isn't really yours to begin with anyway. I want to invite you to surrender it up today, friends. I want to invite you to offer that surrender. It doesn't look like defeat. Surrender looks like victory. And that give it, and that let God receive all the things that you're carrying, all the things that you're trying to work out, all the resolutions that you're trying to keep, as we're 2 weeks out from resolution time, and it's either going well or maybe it's not. But either way, offer it up and let God, and let the things that you have to handle, let today's worries be enough for today. Let the things that you have to handle be before you, and you'll discover you have more power and more truth and more joy and more agency and more wonder and more beauty than you could ever manage to pull off by putting there yourself. Because your Father in heaven wants to give you all good gifts. So I want to leave you today, and we'll pray together the receiving prayer once again. Take, Lord, and receive all my liberty, my memory, my understanding, and my entire will, all I have and call my own. You have given it all to me. To you, Lord, I return it. Everything is yours. Do with it what you will. Give me only your love and your grace, and that is enough for me. Amen and amen. Peace and grace to you, my friends, and we'll pick it up tomorrow with another 11:11.